Welcome to Legends of the Inkwell. This is our local meta report for Southeast Michigan. Glad to be here with you guys today. We are doing another 2 weeks. So we have a core constructed week. We have one deck from that. And then, more importantly, we have the Infinity Weekend. We have 3 decks from the Infinity Weekend that we're going to check out. So let's do the core constructed first because we're going to do them in order of when it happened. So the core constructed was 2 weekends ago. So let's look at that one first. We have a Sapphire Steel deck played by Jacob at Loot Card Shop. It did really well, and it is a detectives deck. And what's really cool about it is it has so many different synergies. You have all the Judy Hops in here, and so there's the one Judy Hops that looks for different detectives, and then you have all the detectives to go with it, right? So you have Nick Wilde, you have the Shift Nick Wilde, you have Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Basil, Daisy Duck, Donald Duck. You got them all. And then also to combat some of the board on the other side, you end up having the smaller Tinkerbell, the Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician, and it also allows you to draw and choose and discard a card, as well as the big Shift Tinkerbell, Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, and then Hades as well. Obviously, all Sapphire decks have to have Hades. And then you go with the Tipo and the Sail for the ramp. And we also have Strength of a Raging Fire, He Hurled His Thunderbolt, and Ingenious Device. Ingenious Device is a new card, and it's a very interesting one. And I like it a lot. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in the other Sapphire Steel deck that we'll be showing today for the Infinity event. But just so everybody knows what it is, an Ingenious Device is a item. It's a 3-cost, uninkable. It has 2 different abilities. The first one is Exert, pay to banish this item, draw a card, then choose and discard. And during your turn, when this item is banished, deal 3 damage to chosen character or location. This is going to be important. This one helps in this deck by being able to combat some of the evasives that we see in the Amethyst decks, as well as other things that are maybe on the smaller side, things like maybe a Daisy Duck if you put 1 damage on it with a Tipo, and then you could use the Ingenious Device for banishing it after that. Overall, I think this is a really cool deck, and if you get a chance to play it, I think you should. It's nice to see that the detective synergy does work, and it works really well. So congratulations to Jacob on doing really well this week, and it is a very, very cool deck. The next one that we're going to show is also a Sapphire Steel, but this is from our Infinity Weekend. So this is Adelie's deck from the Infinity Weekend. I believe she took it to both of her events. You could listen to the podcast. She talks more in depth about it. I'm not going to go too in depth about it. I think most people know the Sapphire Steel Infinity deck. But again, something I want to highlight here is the inclusion of Ink Runner, allowing alert to happen for her characters, and being able to challenge evasive characters, and as well as that Ingenious Device and the Robot Queen are the 2 big adds to this deck from the latest set, Whispers in the Well. What's cool about these are they get around the Pete games referee. So Pete games referee says, no, you can't play any actions, but you still need to deal damage to another character on the other side of the board. Well, Ingenious Device and Robot Queen will do that for you. I talked about Ingenious Device already, so let's talk about the Robot Queen. It is a 1-cost inkable item. Whenever you play a character, you may pay 1 and banish this item to deal 2 damage to chosen character. So very similar to the Ingenious Device. And it's also the Robot Queen. If you don't need it, it is also another 1-cost item that you can banish to play the Bell, which you can play Bell for free if you banish an item. So other than that, fairly standard Sapphire Steel. There's also the inclusion of Might Solve a Mystery, looking at the top 4 cards of your deck to reveal a character and an item card and put them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. I think that's just a great way to filter as well. So, good job to Adelaide. She ended up splitting the top 2 at the Game and Company Infinity Weekend 1K with this deck. So, it is still a good deck, Sapphire Steel. The next one is a very interesting deck that also came out of the Game and Company 1K. Let's dive into that one. This is Andrew's Amethyst Emerald discard deck. So in this deck, you get all the Diablos. It's just Bird Central here. So you get the Amethyst 1-cost Diablo, you get the Emerald 1-cost Diablo, you get the Amethyst Emerald 2-cost Diablo, as well as everybody's favorite bird, Diablo Devoted Herald in Emerald there. You get some new help with this deck by adding in the Cheshire Cat, allowing you to move damage from your side of the board to your opponent's side of the board, as well as the Hades, which allows you to either not banish a character, put a character at the bottom of your opponent's deck, or draw 2 cards, your opponent's choice. And I think that it works really well together because you have so many decks that take a long time to set up with your Ruby Sapphires and your Sapphire Steels. They're not the fastest decks. So this deck kind of preys on that and allows you to discard their hand at strategic times while still drawing a lot into your hand with the Prince John, with the Dumbo, with the Genie, and and the pull the lever as well. So you can also bounce cards back to the player's hand with wrong lever, and we don't talk about Bruno is also a bounce back to the player's hand, and they end up discarding as well. There's the inclusion of Chip, which is another choose and discard, and then you have your Rush Elsa, which is just a staple in pretty much every Amethyst deck, and your Cricky to give another character +3 strength. So a lot of really good cards in this deck. I love to see it. I love seeing that Friends on the Other Side is back. And I don't know. I'm very happy to see some of the old cards we used to play with pre-rotation and see them coming back. I don't know that I'm the most excited about Diablo Devoted Herald coming back, but you can't have it all. So glad to see this came back. Andrew also split the top 2 at the Game and Company 1K event. I believe it was actually a half K based on their participation, but another really cool deck to check out and try in any of your future Infinity games. I'm sure there will be a lot of Infinity games following the Richmond DLC here in North America, since Indianapolis is our next one, and that is the Infinity format. So I believe a lot of people will be practicing Infinity. So we're definitely going to be probably pulling more and more Infinity decks in this local meta report as we go. Our final deck is actually the deck that I played this weekend. I ended up going 4-0 at Loot, and I played an aggro locations deck is essentially what this is. So the goal of this deck is just to get as many locations out as possible, as fast as possible, and they're very hard to deal with for your opponent. And then you can bring out the John Silver, and the John Silver is just an amazing card, right? You get resist 1 and +1 lore for every location you have in play. So it becomes a really, really big body. I included the Illuminary Tunnels in this, and that one's an awesome location to have, especially if you're playing locations. Because if you have a character there, it gets +1 lore for each other location you have. It comes out on turn 3 or 4. Typically 4 is where you want to play this. And at turn 4, you probably have 4 locations out already at that point. The nice part about this deck, though, is that if you don't get the location line, then your other line is also still very, very fast, right? You get Daisy Duck, you get Penny, you get Piglet, you get Mr. Smee, you get Nala, you get Lady, all two or more questers right out of the gate. So it's a fun deck to play. It it doesn't take much to play it. It's a relatively cheap deck, I would say, cost wise, just because almost half your deck is locations, and the locations are very cheap right now. So if you're looking for a fun, cheap deck to play, this is probably the deck that you should go after. And if you don't want to do all of the item and action nonsense that you see in the Sapphire Steel and the Ruby Steel, uh, because it takes a lot of brain power, then this is a much less knowledge based. It's mostly just play and turn sideways. And I love it. I love it. It's so good. Very fast. So those are the four decks that we had. So again, just to review them, we had the Amber Steel Aggro Locations deck. We had the Amethyst Emerald discard deck for Infinity. We had the Sapphire Steel Infinity deck. And then, of course, our core constructed deck of the week is the Detectives deck. If you are local to the Southeast Michigan area, or I guess really anywhere in Michigan is fine, but we're trying to focus on Southeast Michigan, and you have a winning deck and you want us to highlight your deck list, we'd love to hear about your deck and please send it to us. You can reach us on Instagram or Discord, any of us on Discord. We'd be happy to take it and feature it on a future local meta report. So that's the four decks we have for today, and it's just so exciting that we got to play Infinity again and those old cards. It was really cool. I loved it. We just released the podcast about the Infinity Weekend. Make sure you check that out. It's a great time. And with that, it's a great day to have a great day. Bye.